on Saturday morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time zone you are in, world over in the different countries. We extend you a very warm welcome to be the part of today's very special program by, Next Education Private Limited, all the way from Dubai. And we have got Mr. Arpit Duggar, the head of the Business International of the Next Education. We are proud of him that we have done almost 100 plus webinar during the thick of the pandemic that time. So today, Saturday, 11th of December, 2021, as far as India is concerned, it should be 3 minutes past 10 a.m. in India. We are having a very special program coming up all the way from Dubai. And let me also share with all of you, ladies and gentlemen, today is 1340th webinar as far as ICSI during pandemic is concerned. We have got more than 15,000 educators and 300,000 youth from the world over being a part of this entire journey, right from 25th of March and 2020. So let's proceed. I extend a very warm welcome to Mr. Aru Mugam Srinivasanji, who is joining us early in the morning from Chennai. Other dignitaries, all other people, those are joining. Thank you very much. I'll keep reading out your names time to time. So, ladies and gentlemen, ICSI International Chamber for Service Industry extends you a very warm welcome. And Mr. Arpit Duggar has joined from Dubai. Let me show you the slide once again so that let him also know reimagining learning. And it's a knowledge sharing, and he is now the head for the Business International, the entire development process of Next Education. And we are really proud of him that during the thick of pandemic, we all were together. We have done more than 100 webinars at that point of time. Remarkable. It's something is commendable. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's make education relevant. All our brothers and sisters, those are across the world, wherever they are, 31.45 million people now, Indian diaspora, they're doing wonders. They're doing wonders. They are adding up so much to the humanity, civilization, as well as to India as well. Now, our focus is services sector. Our chamber deals with the services, and we strongly believe that education, skills, and the outcome of the education and outcome of your skills, if it is not accountable, then we are having a traditional churning out the certifications and degrees and all. So thereby the micro, small, and the medium enterprise, whether you become startup, you become entrepreneur, whatever you do, it's very important. So during this entire journey of the pandemic, we have been focusing on teachers and youth, and we are really, really proud of people like Arpit Duggar, who had given so much valuable inputs during this journey. Our chamber is also proud. We brought India's first finishing school in 1994 for services sector, particularly when you talk about personality enhancement, communication skills, collaboration, creativity, innovation, curiosity, critical thinking, design thinking, continuous and lifelong learning, and where music, humor, fun, dance, happiness, passion, stimulation, all is the part of education when we take into consideration. Now, there is a inspirational lab concept which we developed over there, innovative storytellings, what we have developed over there, and a lot of talent labs which we developed over there. So, ladies and gentlemen, 52,000 youth have gone from the hands. Those are working abroad, overseas, in different countries. And we are proud that our chamber has got footprints in 131 countries. Now, teachers training also is very important next to heart. And the finishing school, which was set up in 1994, it has gone totally digital now during pandemic. And now it's called e-Gurukul. And under the e-Gurukul, which we have taken up on 27th September 2021, because that's the World Tourism Day. And can you imagine that we have done almost 7 programs to reach out all the continents and all the people during this pandemic. And we always feel in e-Gurukul, music, dance, games, happiness, humor, fun, creativity, curiosity, storytelling, stimulation, passion, talent, and your stress-free, technology-based, vocational and skill-based and nature-based education. Why not? Education should be relevant to our day-to-day life and happy living. So B2B, back to basics of life, basic food, basic health, basic education. Tonight at 7 p.m., we will be having 93rd program of Ayurveda for the global wellness. When more than 2 lakh people, they join us from world over. We are really proud of Dr. Parmeshwar Arora. And with the time, with the Ritu, with the place, with the the ingredients we take into consideration, what is there in your kitchen. And tonight we will take you at 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time to northeast part of India. Our advisor, Mr. Tyrone D. Brass, who is in Tura, he's a great educationist, and he is binding everybody from the northeast together. We wish to share with all of you that 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th is the annual convention of ICSI, and that is going to be North India Pravasi, Divas 2022. And first day, we are going to have all the states and union territories presentations. You will have Leh and Ladakh, you will have Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal, Haryana, Punjab, Chandigarh, Uttarakhand, Delhi, and Rajasthan as well. Thereafter, on 14th, we'll go to school education and skills. 15th, we'll go to higher education and skills. And 16th, we'll be talking about education, services, exports from India. So whatsoever human mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Let's come together. Let's work together. Let's plan together. And on the YouTube channel, this program is going live. You can join, you can be a part of it, and you can enjoy. With these words, let me extend a very warm welcome to Sri Arpit Duggaji. Pleasure to have you this morning. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for being with us all the way from Dubai. What is the temperature at your place?
Very good morning, sir. Thank you so much for the very warm welcome. Temperature currently, sir, it is around 27 degrees.
Wow, you're so fortunate. It's freezing at all these places this side. Great, great. I love that kind of weather, very moderate weather. Mr. Tyrone D. Brass has also joined from Meghalaya, all the way from Tura. That's very good. And Melinda D'Souza, thank you. Julie from Manipur. Supriya Roy, Nyoi Nyodu from Arunachal Pradesh. Great. Arumugam Srinivasanji from Chennai. Great. I'll keep announcing but today is a very important session and next to my heart. And whenever I see Arpit Duggaji, I always recall and remember Abhishek Bachchan. I always tell him, you look at him, you see him, and he is a Abhishek Bachchan of India, all the way in Dubai at this point of time. And he's sharing the wisdom, the knowledge, and what all next education is doing globally. With these words, a very hearty welcome and a pleasure. All yours, we wish to learn, listen, and pick up as many threads as possible this morning. All yours. The globe is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for the kind words. And before I begin with Reimagine Learning as a topic, I would just quickly brief about Next Education, what we do. We are a 14-year-old organization now into the education industry, and we have been transforming lives of students right from our inception. Almost around 12 million students get affected, get inspired. They learn from our systems on day-to-day basis. We work with more than 18,000 schools now in India, in Middle East, in Africa, and a few pockets of the rest of the world. We work with different curriculums. We work with CBSE schools, we work with ICSE schools, we work with American curriculum, British curriculum, Arabic curriculum, and so on. So the whole strength of the organization lies in research. We do a lot of research in terms of teaching pedagogies. What kind of learning environment has to be created for students to pick up things at a faster pace and meeting the requirements of the future. Now, for us as a technology company to enable this, schools also need to empower themselves. Institutions need to empower themselves in terms of complete re-engineering the way teaching learning happens. On that note, sir, we created a small kind of presentation or a zest of the items wherein the educational leaders can learn from this, can take some points from here as to how to reimagine the whole learning space. So for this, I would like to share my screen. And
all yours, all yours.
Yeah, Is the screen visible?
Yes, yes. Please go ahead.
All right. So we call this sphere of education as Education 4.0. Now, what is Education 4.0? And if at all we know anything about 4.0, then what was Education 1.0? What was Education 2.0? What was Education 3.0? So we need to know about it. And then accordingly, we need to place our institutions in that space. Today, Education 4.0 is in action. However, unfortunately, many of the institutions are still in Education 3.0 scenario, or some of them are still in Education 2.0. Now, this is a very horrible trend which we are seeing across the institutions, wherein institutions are not gearing up themselves for the next decade. So what needs to be done? Where is that gap? How it needs to be bridged? Before even actually beginning up with that, the first thing is the analysis of self-performance. So many a times we think that we are doing very creative programs for our students. We are providing all the best of the best facilities to our students. However, at the same time, if we look into the rubrics of those facilities, we realize that we have still not even dreamt of Education 4.0. Forget about practicing it. So let me just try to begin up with one video here.
Hi there. Today, we present to you the 10 most unusual vehicles created by both professionals and self-taught investors. Some of these vehicles already exist, and some will appear in the near future. The Manta 5 hydrofoil bike, which was released by bicycle designer Robert Alonso, is a water analog electric bike. His Aqua bike has underwater wings and electric assistant torsion pedals. Manta 5 has an aluminum frame, underneath which are 2 submarine wings. They lift the bicycle over the water when it is moving. The bicycle is powered by a person and an auxiliary electric motor with a capacity of 400 watts. It has special modules that are responsible for the balance of the bike and holding the bicycle on the water during a stop. The bike has a mass of 20 kilograms, but is capable of withstanding a rider weighing up to 100 kilograms. When used at maximum power, the battery lasts for...
I'll just pause it here for a while because Gulshan sir is looking at the video very curiously. So I would like to ask one question here.
It's lovely. It's lovely. Wonderful to see that. Yes, please go ahead.
Sir, if at all you have to imagine a vehicle for yourself, what kind of vehicle will it be? Anything that comes to your mind should be okay. You can add wings to it. You can add fire to it. You can add anything to it. Just imagine one.
Wow. Wow. I can feel, I can see with so much of zeal and interest, and that is future.
Correct, sir. So let's say, sir, if today if we ask, okay, in terms of your comfort or in terms of your usage or just your imagination, if I have to design one vehicle for you, what kind of features would you want in that vehicle?
See, with my age, I should be very comfortable physically. I should be very comfortable, I would say it should give me the comfort. That is the first thing. And secondly, I should not be consuming petrol. I should not be consuming diesel. I should not be consuming and spreading more, kind of carbon dioxide and adding up more pollution to the society.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. So when these questions are asked to different sets of people, sir, depending on their own requirements, people do think of various ideas. They can be weirdest of the weirdest ones, as well as the ones which solve the real life problems. So this particular video, which I'm going to continue now, is going to show some kind of vehicles which have been invented already. And from there, I'll take up this discussion of Education 4.0. So let me continue.
Arunachal Pradesh, Nyodu ma'am is writing, I will tell Arpit Duggarji that I would choose wings for my car.
Fantastic, ma'am. Fantastic. Such responses, yeah, please, wings for your car so that you can avoid traffic congestion on the road. All right.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So, ma'am, do watch this video. I'm sure you will have some more ideas to share by the time this video ends. And from there, I'll pick it up for the discussion of Education 4.0.
1 hour, while the bike can accelerate to 20 kilometers per hour. The company Arca Space presented its original look as a concept of a hoverboard. Since the company is a representative of the American space industry, their specialization reflected on the design of the flying machine, which was called Archaboard. It is able to hover above the ground by 36 small fans controlled by high-speed motors. The manufacturer states that the power of this device is 272 horsepower. Archaboard is more powerful than most cars. The dimensions of the device are about 1 meter long and half a meter wide. In general, this thing is very cumbersome and was very poorly thought out. You can only stand on it while trying your best not to fall down. Known designer and kiteboarder Don Montague, together with his team Kai Concepts, decided to connect a motorized surfboard and hydrofoil. The result was a device that the creators called Jetfoiler. A noiseless electric motor accelerates the board, and then the submarine wings enter, which allows the rider to literally fly over the surface of the water. Surfing in this way is very simple and everyone can handle it. You control the speed of your board with a remote control. The creator explains that as soon as the board is gaining sufficient speed, the rider leans back and the board rises from the water. A young team from Switzerland has developed an electric stair-climbing wheelchair, Siwu, which is capable of climbing the stairs, and in addition to the 2 wheels, has 2 mechanisms with rubber caterpillar tracks. In normal situations, the rider uses only the wheels, and the tracks are under the hull. But when it is necessary, they take on the user's movement and are able to lift the chair along the stairs, and it is easy to move around on the ice or gravel. In addition, the chair itself rises higher. The compact size allows you to adjust the seat to pass through any door and easily maneuver in the room. The user can control the chair either by using a joystick or by transferring body weight. This is a very cool real device with a functional use and of great importance for an individual suffering from a particular ailment. It is simply irreplaceable. Solo Wheel Iota, a hybrid of the usual gyroscope with a mono wheel. The project was launched on Kickstarter. The price of the device starts at $440.
And the one towards the end. So this one I want to show you.
Air car while driving is being developed. The project by Volkswagen was presented in Beijing, China as a virtual model. Together with Volkswagen, Chinese partners will take part in this implementation. And what do you think about these vehicles? Would you like to have any of them?
All right.
Certainly, we would like to have one of them, but manufactured in India.
Manufactured in India, right.
Yes.
So, any of the audiences who are there today joining us, we would definitely want to know from you also in your comments, what kind of vehicles do you imagine? And any of these vehicles, if you would want in your, with you for your usage. It will be great to have your responses. Now, basically what I want to tell here is these kind of imaginations or the kind of developments. This particular video is from 2013. I repeat, this is 2013. I deliberately took a video, which is almost now a decade back. So just imagine from 2013 to now is 9 years of technology development, 9 years of rapid technology development. So things have moved rapidly from one space to the other. Looking at these kind of videos or this kind of imagination itself gives us jitters. And this is a system which is bygone. It's education 3.0. Now we are in 4.0. We need to imagine the systems which are going to be sustainable, which do not harm and hamper the whole environment in any form. So a lot of creativity has to be brought in for us to be designing, for our students to be designing things like that, not just limited to automotive industry. Let me move to my next slide and
Hi
give you
there.
a glimpse
Today, we
of how the education space moves. So education is always related to the industrial requirements. As and when the industry shifts, the education scenario shifts. So let's take it from education 1.0. So industry 1.0. So what was the first industrial revolution all about? It was all about mechanical systems, mechanical drives, wherein production of any product or services were more or less related with mechanized inputs. So for example, water, steam power, or any kind of processes that were set required more usage of machines. So this was 1800s when it just started across the globe. Then came the second industrial revolution. So in first industrial revolution, the kind of manpower which was required was more or less laborious, task oriented. So you did not have those people did not have much expectations other than people executing the stuff which required physical inputs. Then came the second industrial revolution. Second industrial revolution talked about energy more, and somewhere in 1900s, wherein the world was also facing a lot of challenges, a lot of calamities, world wars, and so the whole shift changed from the initial manufacturing now to arms development, security development, more of energy requirements. So it shifted there, and along with that shifted the education space. Then came the third industrial revolution. Now, third industrial revolution brought in IT into the system, wherein a lot of electronics and uh, information technology swept in across all the spheres. So advent of computer technology and transformation and automation of lots of processes started happening. So the education required a lot of change from second to third revolution, because all together from mechanistic drives to automated things, the education was supposed to be rethought, redesigned, re-engineered. So third industrial revolution actually brought a lot of changes in the education space. Today is industry 4.0, which is complex, comprehensively based on cyber physical systems. So earlier we were there in a network of, let's say we used to talk about how big is the network of roads in India, how big is the network of security systems in India, how big is the network distribution, public distribution system in India. Now we talk about how intact or how in depth is the cyber network of the country. How many internet users are there? What's the penetration of the internet? How many devices are in place? What kind of satellite systems we have to control the security of these devices? So everything has moved to cyber physical systems, which is Industrial Revolution 4.0. Now, to manage a shift, a transformation from education industry 3.0 to 4.0, a lot of skills were required. Now, these skills developed over a period of almost 2 decades. So what we can see here is that from 1800s to 1900, 1900 to 2000, and today is just 20 years. So this educational shifts, the complexity of industrial revolution is increasing rampantly. What used to take 100 years is now taking 20 years. What today is taking 20 years will tomorrow take 7 to 8 years. So the kind of shift that we are expecting in education industry 5.0 is not far seen of. Today it is 2021, about to be ended, 2022, let's assume. So by 2026 or 27, we are going to face the industry revolution 5.0. The way artificial intelligence is sweeping in, the way data science is sweeping in. And all of these are not an isolated affairs anymore. Any industry, any process which we see sees the inclusion of data in it. So we need to prepare our systems. How will my students otherwise get to know when they enter into graduation or post-graduation programs, and when they enter into their professions, that this was something which I was supposed to learn 5 years back itself. Otherwise, I'm outdated now. So on this note, we take the presentation forward and we see the kind of challenges that this generation is going to see. So number one challenge, which across different studies the world is projecting, is securing the cyberspace. Because anything and everything today that we do has got a cloud connection, has got a safety mechanism involved in terms of its security, not just security of data, but security of its usage or its misusage. So securing the cyberspace is one of the biggest challenges and opportunities that these students need to look into. Second is economical clean energy. We have been using a lot of orthodox methods of providing energy to the world, which includes thermal power on the top. So now we need to drive our systems towards economical and clean energy, which is again a challenge as well as a very big, a huge opportunity for these generations to look into. Sustaining land and oceans. However big talks we do, today we the scientists, all the research agencies, we know that we are the only lonely habitable planet in this universe. Unless and until we maintain our land and oceans, it gets immensely difficult to survive by 2060. Again, it's not far off that we are talking about centuries and centuries. 2060, the world will see a doom if we don't act now. So the generations which are going to enter into graduation in next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, they have immense of challenges and opportunities with which they need to work upon, so that the next 2 decades, the whole world, our country and the whole world sees a rapid transformation. Now, when we talk about this rapid transformation, our education systems need to be redesigned. We are going to talk about it. We have to reimagine the learning in its totality, in its holistic form. So next comes sustainable and resilient infrastructure. Designing a building is no more a requirement. Our forefathers have done it. Our elder generations have done it. We are doing it. What now is required is sustainable and resilient infrastructures. And not just in the building infrastructure, but every infrastructure that we can think of. We need to design sustainable cities. The global challenge foresees access to clean water and sanitation. It also foresees a security threat to clean air. It also poses a global challenge. A global challenge also is predicting food security as one of the biggest challenges. Preparing for and containing pandemics. Developing and delivering better medicines. So these are top 10 global challenges with which our education system needs to think upon. And when we say that education systems need to think upon, it's not just the responsibility of higher education programs or research-based programs to work upon it. Our students need to align it right from their kindergarten. So the whole system is requiring some kind of re-engineering. Let's see how that happens, how that has to happen. Another small video of incredible future technologies that exist today. I repeat, these are some of the future technologies which were supposed to exist after a decade, but are existing today, just to show you how rapidly the technology has moved.
Our technology becomes more advanced every day. 20 years ago, the idea of being able to watch this video through a wireless internet connection, perhaps even using your phone to do so, was unthinkable. And yet here you are right now. Nobody knows what kind of amazing inventions and advances we might see in the next 20 years, but we have some strong hints from the projects and experimental designs that are happening right now. We've put some of the very best of them together here in this video. Privacy campaigners around the world are already worried about facial recognition technology. Cameras are already sophisticated enough to identify any of us when we're walking down the street, and we can no longer be sure that we truly have any privacy anywhere. The kind of facial recognition technology being trialed in China can do more than just identify you. It can decide whether you're trustworthy and even whether you're healthy or not. Ping An, China's largest insurance company, is currently experimenting with camera technology that picks up on micro expressions and determines whether or not a potential customer is lying. It also assesses their body mass index. By using the tech, they hope to be able to decide who to insure, who not to insure, and who might be trying to make a fraudulent claim. Is this a responsible use for artificial intelligence, or is it just a way to ensure that the type of person who might need insurance the most isn't able to get it? The Chinese camera technology might be able to decide whether you're lying or not by reading your facial expressions, but it can't actually read your mind. Allegedly, this next piece of tech can. Russian robotics company Neurobotics Lab claims to have developed a piece of artificial intelligence that can guess what type of video someone is watching purely by analyzing their brainwaves. They have to be hooked up to a machine in order for the AI to work, but it's still an amazing achievement if it's true. Not only can it deduce the content of the videos that test subjects watch, but it can also roughly reproduce a series of images similar to those seen on the screen. The idea of a machine intruding on your thoughts is a little uncomfortable, but Neurobiotics Lab hopes that it will find a use in the field of medicine. They envision their tech being used to assist stroke patients or people who have suffered brain injuries.
Just pausing it here for a while. So the kind of data science that is now working, we saw an example of an insurance company piloting a project to read the facial expressions and using those facial expressions, analyzing whether the person is healthy or not healthy, whether the person is lying, not lying. Now, this kind of technology is already swept into the education system. As far as our platform, Next Education's learning platform is concerned, we have an artificially intelligence-based online proctoring system, wherein students who are appearing in the examinations using the facial recognition technology, using the audio recognition technology, we are able to analyze the behavior of the child. So based on that behavior, the assessment that the child is appearing in, the automatic evidences are captured by the system. So you don't need a human intervention to understand whether a child is following the instructions, not following the instructions during an exam. So these kind of interventions and advent of technology is already started to help the education space. Now I'll move forward and let's talk about how do we outline the strategy, because we know that these are going to be the challenges. We know what kind of transformations we have to think about. The world is going through a change and we need to bring in a lot of disruption within our system. But how do we actually strategize it? So let me come straight to the point and try to give maximum insights in terms of self-analysis and then the strategic action planning. So number one is when we outline a strategy for our own institution, the first thing to be done is to identify the disruption, whether my school is in an unsettled zone or learning zone or growth zone. And when we are going to see the parameters and rubrics of unsettled and learning and growth zone, we will ourselves identify that most of us are still in unsettled zone. However, we are dreaming of growth zone. Now, what are these three zones? We will look into it. Now, once my school moves from unsettled zone to learning zone to growth zone, then only we talk about transition. Now, till that time, talking about transition makes no sense. It's like I have to reach from point A to point B, which is 500 kilometers away, and I don't have any means but to walk. However, at the same time, I'm thinking that I should be able to cover this in 30 minutes. So it's a vague idea. So it's just something which I'm dreaming of, but I don't have a roadmap done because right now I don't have means and resources to even think about it. So my unsettled zone needs to be transformed to learning zone. Learning zone needs to be transformed to growth zone. And then I start working on the transition, which includes well-being, which includes quality learning, which includes safety and operations. And once this is set, once this is done, then comes the part wherein we redefine the learning, wherein we reimagine the learning, wherein we create the deep learning environment in the institution. So it's not a small task to be executed. Some institutions may require a year, some may require 3 years of time to execute it in its totality. So let's see where we stand and what we need to do. The unsettled zone. Some of the common questions that you need to ask yourself as an institution or as a school leader are these. So let me start with as schools first and then as individuals. So as a school, how do I provide access to technology to all my stakeholders? Whether they are students, whether they are parents, whether they are staff, whether they are support staff, whether they're facilities management, my admin staff. How do I provide access to technology to them? The first question that I need to answer and rate myself. Do all of them have got devices? Do they have got internet connectivity? Or are there some common devices? So whatever strategies can be anything, but what kind of or how do I provide the access is number one question that we need to answer. If all my stakeholders do not have an access to technology with whatsoever reason, we are yet not prepared to move to learning zone or growth zone. We are still in the unsettled zone. How do we provide connectivity? How do we provide content for learning? Not just the academics, it can be co-curricular. It can be extracurricular. It can be skill-based content. But that content of learning, how do we provide that content? It's not just the availability of content. Let me take a very niche example here. I have a school which has got, let's say, 10,000 books in its library. So I have got content with me. But how many of those books are being read? Which of the books are still untouched? Which of the books have seen maximum number of issuance? So unless and until I am able to track this, I will not be able to answer that. How am I providing the content to my learners? So this question we need to answer ourselves. Similarly, how do we manage communication? Is it verbal? Is it formal? Is it informal? Is it a mail channel? Am I able to track the outcomes of it? How many of my stakeholders do not participate in the communication or any kind of surveys or anything that I do? So what level of analysis do I have? If I don't have right answers to these questions, I am still in unsettled zone. And similarly, as an individual, how do I get connected? Ask these questions to your different stakeholders. What content will I teach? So as the faculty, so is my content pedagogically aligned? Do I have the right resources? Is my content aligned with the required skill sets of future? What tools, platforms, strategies should I use? How do I cope up with so many list of resources? Now, if we have right defined answers for these four questions each, I think we will get a lot of idea about whether we are there in the unsettled zone or not. And in case if we are in the unsettled zone, we are going to talk about it, what needs to be done. The next zone that comes is the learning zone. So some of the institutions, when you are going to answer those questions, you will see, yeah, we have all the processes set. We have the right mechanisms of these questions already in place, which means that we may have moved to the learning zone. Now, in the learning zone, how do we provide continuity of academic learning? One of the biggest questions that was raised during the pandemic times. So as soon as the COVID struck the world, the educational institutions got crippled for some time because we did not have mechanisms to provide the continuity of the academic learning, irrespective whether the child is coming physically to school or not. So we were not ready for that. So as systems, we should be ready to provide 24/7/365 learning space. That's one question that we should answer. So do we have systems in place to provide a continuous learning to all my stakeholders? How do we support students who lack independent skills of learning? How do we provide continuity and integrity of assessments? How do we support parents to support students? And how do we attend to well-being of students and teachers? If we have got answers to these questions, I think we are pretty much settled in the learning zone. And as individuals, how are my students doing? Not just in academics, but in life in totality. So what kind of rubrics, what kind of assessment matrix I have to identify whether my student is doing well or not? How am I judging the well-being of my students and staff? So these kind of questions. Similarly, what is worth learning? Because what 1990s used to teach may not be relevant now. So is it actually worth learning that? Is it worth learning about typewriters, how typewriters used to function? It could be yes, it could be no. But the question lies is that do we have answers to these? That all the learning outcomes which are there in my curriculum, am I improvising upon it? Or are we just following whatever has been laid in some documents? So what is worth learning? Is my academician, the academic intelligence of the school, putting up some answers to it? Or it's just like the mechanistic way of doing it. Batches come, batches pass by, and we are covering the portions in between which are required by the curriculum. So these questions needs to be answered. How will I design learning that engages? How do I balance screen and non-screen experience? How will I assess learning and well-being? So these kind of questions, once answered, gives me a clear indication of whether my institution is settling in the learning zone or not. And let's assume the case wherein I have answers to these questions and my rubrics and parameters are set, and the kind of strategies that I bring in place tells me that my school is doing well in the learning zone. Then we shift to the growth zone. Now, in this growth zone, the questions that we need to ask is, how do we ensure well-being? How do we provide quality learning? Now, this quality learning will include a lot of elements. You provide the best of the best technology, you provide best features, you provide best tools, you have a super solid tracking mechanism to see how things are progressing. What was the difference a month back and now? So you have a lot of data analysis in place to understand how your systems are progressing day on day basis, week on week basis, quarterly basis, and yearly basis. How do we use a hybrid model that combines the best of remote and situated learning? So do we have those hybrid models in place? Do we have our flipped classrooms in place? Do we have a blended form of learning in place? So how many of my stakeholders get involved in the learning? Are some community helpers along in the day-to-day learning cycle of the school? What kind of alumni connections do I have? How many external exposures am I creating for my students? All these questions will get answered once we look into these questions in its holistic form. So how do we shift from digital as delivery to connectedness? Once we start answering these questions, we know that now we are a school which is working, which is continuously progressing and trying to achieve the growth zone. As individuals, as a school leader, I should be able to answer who is learning in my school and who is struggling. So, in some of the workshops, sir, I happened to ask a few principals who were attending that if, let's say, you have got 2,000 students, and if I have to ask you, because you are the school leader, you are responsible for those 2,000 students today and for their future. Do you know how many of your students out of these are learning and how many of them are struggling? If yes, then what is that they are learning and what is that they are struggling with? If they are struggling with something, what is that you have prepared as an action strategy for them? If they are learning, what kind of challenges, further exciting challenges you are posing for them? Have you got answers for these? So broadly, they would say, yes, strategies are in place. But if we do the micro level analysis, then it's a no. Now, when it's a no, so sometimes there are presumptions that as school leaders, we think that our school is in a growth zone and we are doing wonderfully well. However, when we start drilling it down further, then we realize that no, there are gaps. And these gaps need to be filled at the earliest. Because by the time we plan for filling these gaps, the technology will change. The problems will change. As we speak, hundreds of new things are being launched. So we have to be very proactive in getting these gaps bridged. So what skills helped my students the most? After they passing out from my school, what kind of courses did they opt for? How much did the learning which happened in the school help them? What kind of career choices did they make? So we need to analyze. I mean, we don't need to, we are not required to just leave the hands of our students after 12th. We need to track their progress and attainment at later stages as well. For me to analyze how well my institution had been performing, what kind of strategies worked, what did not work. So how can they develop the industry required skills? What kind of industrial exposures, what kind of sessions, what kind of training programs, what kind of assessments am I doing to analyze the industry required skills are getting honed in my students or not? How do I ensure both well-being and learning, which is again a very important task now, especially with the screen time being increased. So how do I ensure well-being and learning? Once I answer these questions, I then know that my school is whether in unsettled zone or learning zone or the growth zone. So as school leaders, I think this is one of the most important tasks to be done, to be thought about. I mean, the whole school team needs to sit and first analyze and rate themselves and accept it that, okay, we are in unsettled zone right now, or we are in a learning zone right now, or we are in a growth zone right now, and then plan the next steps of action. Okay. Any questions so far, sir, if we have in the chat box?
Thank you very much. In fact, there is encouraging comments only coming. Everybody is flabbergasted and everybody is so happy. I must say, people are just telling technology, we got to keep pace with the technology. And like you made a sentence in between where you mentioned that when we are talking, maybe the 100 new things have come up, at that time when we are even conversing and we are having this webinar. So I'm going to say people are enjoying most productive and scintillating session, allowing teachers and software to deliver more personalized content and lessons to students while allowing students to learn at their own pace and ability levels. And technology offers various tools to boost development and to exchange information. Very useful session. Any sufficiently advanced technology is basically indistinguishable from magic. And then BB Subha Foundation, it's a group from Manipur of about 250 students. The use of information and communication technology in education can play a crucial role in providing new and innovative forms of support to teachers. J. Subbalakshmi from Chennai, it offers huge opportunity to transform global education at all age levels. Very informative session. So like that, people are just posting their views. They are enjoying the session on Saturday morning with you in India.
That's great. That's great. So on that note, I would also like to add two more items here. One is because somebody mentioned about indistinguishable role of technology and individualized learning. Earlier in Gurukul systems, it was a very beautiful system wherein there was a guru along with 4, 5, or maximum 8 shishya. So in that system, a guru had a complete know-how, I would say a DNA scan of child's learning, not just academic learning, but overall learning. So he knew about well-being of the child because all 24 hours shishya and guru used to spend together. And the physical health, the mental health, the academic health, everything the guru was able to analyze, was able to understand. Now with the advent of these centuries, what has happened is we have very less time. As teachers, we have 4, 5 restricted hours with the students. And if at all, if we have to see in totality, maybe a teacher will spend an hour with the child in a school day. So within that 1 hour, it's fairly impossible for any human to map the skills of the child, to understand the well-being of the child. So you need to have a system in place. You need to have technology in place, which can analyze the data sets for you and give you the right sets of information. That is what we also do in the education space. We try to bring in and enhance our platform in a way wherein all the data sets that a teacher wants to analyze into are already created, are already analyzed by the artificial intelligence, and you have the outcomes prepared. Based on those outcomes, you are able to strategize the next steps of action. So yeah, very well said, because now with this technology, differentiated instructions should be given to the differentiated learners. Individualized study plans, individualized career plans should be mapped. Then only the system creates a difference in terms of delivering the learning. So on that note, let's shift forward and just try to brainstorm a bit about whether technology should be more than a delivery mechanism. It should enable collaboration, communication, and connection. So most of us as school leaders, because when I also consult with schools, when we interact with schools, uh, sometimes we get confused in between, what's technology actually? So technology is not the hardware setup. It's not the software setup. I would rather say technology is usage of these two in the apt manner. So unless and until my hardware and software is able to create a collaborative environment in the school, it makes no difference. Then rather I can do away with that and involve some conventional strategies and create a collaborative environment in the school. Whether my hardware and software is able to enhance the role of communication. If yes, then it is giving the right answers to me. If no, then I need to switch. I need to shift. I need to rethink about what am I doing. So we have to get over with smart screens and projectors and thinking the idea of classrooms enabled with technology as IT fitted into the classroom. It's not that. Whether my software and hardware are building more connections, more network amongst the stakeholders. If yes, fantastic, to move ahead. If no, then we have to rethink about it. So once we are settled with the answers to these questions, our strategies are in place, then comes when we start thinking about the transition. Because now this is the transition which is going to take us towards the creating the education 4.0 environment in the school, creating the deep learning environment in the school. So what is this transition? Three major aspects we have to take care of in this transition. One is quality learning, broadly. We will classify it more, but yeah. So in terms of quality learning, a lot of institutions, we are already doing so much of stuff. We try to provide the best of the best programs to the students. We provide the best resources to them. We try to provide the best set of teachers to them to teach. So quality learning, we are doing a lot of stuff. However, a lot more needs to be done. So we'll see what's there in the pot for this. Second important thing during the transition is well-being. Because while we are taking all these measures, if somehow, even by some extent, we lose focus on well-being, I think the whole idea is lost. So very highly important. And third is safety and operations. So operationally, the school should have a system which should work on its own. It should not be people dependent. It should be system dependent, because our students, they are very vulnerable at their primitive stages. So what happens is, if a particular faculty, if a particular staff member changes, the whole psychology has to be rethought of. So our operationally, the school should be set. Safety wise, because there will be it's not just physical safety but mental safety, and which includes even cyber safety. So a lot of safety measures have to be in place when we are thinking about the transition. Okay, so let me take it forward. So there has to be a checklist, and I would love to, I mean, if you just share your in the comments, if you share your mail IDs, perhaps you would try to share one checklist of safety and operations, which a school must prepare by themselves first, because every environment will have a different kind of requirements. However, we have created a checklist of around 400 items across the different processes. So what you need to do as a school leader is to create a checklist for each of your department, number one. Second, for each of the process that you are executing. Now, once that checklist is done, the respective stakeholders should be trained, and then you should monitor the progress of the gaps. Let me take an example here. Let's say admission process. So what is the process of admission in my school? It can differ from school to school. So let's say my school, I first take an inquiry form. It could be an online inquiry or somebody walking in the school and taking a inquiry in person. Then I give a registration form. Then I take a assessment test. And then I shortlist or confirm the child. So let's say these are the 4 processes. And in between this, I involve my accounts department to collect the fee of application form. Now let's say this is the workflow. Now across this whole workflow, whether all the stakeholders are properly trained on the process, number 1. Second, are there any safety concerns which should be brought into picture? Taking a very small example. So let's say I have opened the online inquiry form for my parents, and I am expecting them to upload some documents or child's photograph. Right. Now, what kind of safety measure do I have? Now, let's say the parent by mistake uploads some other photograph, or the child, just to do some mischief, uploads some obscene photograph, which is not required. Now, do I have safety measures in place? Do I have some control measures in place? Is something which we need to look into. So this is just one small process. Similarly, there are more than 100 processes running in the school. So each of my department should list down what kind of workflows they are executing. Against each workflow, what are the checklist items for safety and for operations? Becomes highly important before we begin up with the transition phase. So in the transition phase, along with quality learning, along with well-being, safety and operations takes a prime role. Right? Okay. Now, once this checklist is done and we are able to monitor the progress over the checklist, then is the time when we talk about quality learning. Then is the time when we talk about deep learning. What is this deep learning environment? All of us have somehow got a learning environment or a quality learning environment, but very few of us have been able to work on deep learning environment. Or maybe we have started to work, but its execution is not that seamlessly done. So deep learning environment is undoubtedly the most difficult scenario of which an institution can think of. However, it's the most exciting scenario which an institution can think of at the same time. Now, what kind of dimensions it includes? So deep learning must be built on the interest of students along the following dimensions. Number 1, connecting to purpose and meaning. Anything and everything that the child is going through, child should be taught what is the purpose and meaning of learning that particular item. Example, very often, students, they do ask, what is the use of mathematics in my life? Or let's say if today in the session also, if I have to ask you, we read trigonometry, we read quadratic equations, we read fractions.
That's your favorite subject, and you make it so easy. I learned for the first time from you.
Thank you so much, sir. So those kind of questions, in fact, sir, to that extent, let's say photosynthesis. I know, photosynthesis is being used to convert the energy to chemical energy. So and from chemical energy, the plant will. So I know the idea, but now let's say I have to use it. What kind of use does it make? Whenever I see a plant, it's just that I get recalled of photosynthesis. What else? What kind of purposes was there to learn about it? Now, unless and until our students will know about it, they will not be able to solve the real life problems. Now, that's one of the biggest challenges an institution has to meet, if at all they are wanting themselves to be called as a deep learning environment created institution. So every single word, every sentence that is imparted to the learners should be connected to a purpose and a meaning. Then it makes a difference. Second thing comes is challenging students to have high expectations. It's always said that when you aim at cloud, at least you will land up on the trees top. So unless and until high expectations are set, unless and until they are exposed with the best of the technologies, best of the developments which are happening across the globe, it really becomes very difficult for our students to be geared up and self-motivated to be achieving them. Positioning learning goals that focus beyond the basics. So sometimes very fondly we say, okay, back to basics, back to basics. So back to basics is important, but what is more important is a focus beyond the basics. So needs to be rethought of while we are creating the deep learning environment. Using engaging pedagogies. So as I was taking that example, any subject delivery, be it social sciences or languages or sciences or mathematics or any other skill oriented subject, it should have a lot of engaging pedagogy. Continuous usage of apt tools should be involved so that the learners are themselves engaged. So less efforts of teachers and more efforts of students is what should be targeted to. Ideally, the ratio which now the new education space is calling is 10% to 90%. Earlier, it was 35 to 65, wherein 35% of the efforts by the instructor, 65% of the efforts by the learner. And we were calling that as the teacher as facilitator, that a teacher should just facilitate. Now that has shifted to 10% and 90%. As a facilitator, I am expected to just give 10% of the information. I just have to drive it. The remaining 90% task has to be done by the students. So we are no more knowledge centers now as teachers. Knowledge is already there. We just need to drive them into the right direction so that students, they start engaging themselves properly. In a way, let's say I talk about some particular data or some facts. I don't practically need to do that. Students have it already. Everyone has got Google on their palms. So it's just and these days even students are not typing it. They just command it. So whether it is Siri or something, they would just say, Siri, I want to know this, whether my teacher is giving me the right fact or not. And the Siri is going to give all the answers there. So then what role do I play as a teacher? So as a school leader, I need to rethink whether my teachers are going to play that role wherein they are going to inspire, motivate, and change the way students are thinking, or they are just the standing instructors there who are just covering the curriculum given to them. So those engaging pedagogies, if are in place, as school leaders, we need to identify what kind of teaching strategies are there and what kind of engagement is happening using those teaching strategies. That tracking has to be there. Similarly, building relationships and belongingness, a very important skill, rather, I would say, in the learning space. So in our deep learning environment, a high focus on building relationships and belongingness has to be there. Providing opportunities to contribute to the world. So right from the kindergarten space, the early year space, up till the time when students pass out from school, we need to provide them ample opportunities wherein they are able to showcase their skills, exhibit their talents, and at the same time have an acknowledgement that they have contributed something to this society, to the whole world. So that kind of opportunities needs to be created. A very fine example I saw yesterday itself, it came on my LinkedIn feed, a girl in Indore, and she completed her MBA. And she was doing, I think most of us must be aware of this also because it's going on very viral, this particular video. And she was managing the traffic congestion in the city of Indore. So what she was doing is, during her free time from the management studies, she goes out to the public and she's wearing, I mean, the traffic police has given her a volunteer uniform. And using that, what all she's doing is to try to bring a change in terms of psychology, the way people drive vehicles or the way people follow rules on the street. Now, this is a very small effort what she's taking. However, at the same time, she's contributing to a cause. So that sense of belongingness, why should come in graduation and post-graduation programs? Why not from our early ages? That is something that we need to think about. Now, what all she does is, the only aim she has is that when a policeman or when somebody tries to nab you that you're not wearing a helmet, wear it properly. The human psychology will react to it rather than responding. So, let's say if I am just driving a two-wheeler and somebody all of a sudden comes in and says, you're not wearing your helmet properly, you should do it properly, otherwise I'm going to fine you. My first reaction would be, who are you to do that? That's a natural human instinct. Now, rather than that, what she is doing is, with a very pleasant smile, she would go and she would say the benefits of it. And she would request and make some hand gestures, and somebody does it, then she would show she would just dance on the road and then ask them to go. So that creates a very positive environment in terms of the people who are receiving it. And at the same time, she's contributing to a great cause. A lot of people have joined her hands. Now, these kind of small little examples, it could be just the smallest change that somebody can make. However, it may create a big difference in the future. Those kind of opportunities needs to be created within the school space. So we should not wait for our students to grow, become adults, and then take these responsibilities. Because by that time, their whole structure is already created. Then bringing in those changes becomes very difficult. So to create deep learning environment, these are the 6 major, broader areas which we need to look into. All right. So basically, there should not be any random acts of learning. As school leaders, what happens is, tomorrow, let's say, as a private corporate organization, I come to your school and I say, no, this is a great program, this, we provide XYZ features and facilities for the school. What you end up doing is, if you are convinced with the program, you will negotiate with the vendor and then provide it to the students, which is what we do, because we provide the best of the best facilities to our students. At the same time, we do not realize that many of these acts are random acts of learning, because we think that, okay, this robotics program is good, give it to students. This Internet of Things program is good, give it to students. This reading program is good, give it to students. So we are giving a lot of stuff to students. We are overstuffing them sometimes. This is a good international benchmark test. A lot of schools are appearing in it and students are scoring good results. They're getting scholarships. Let me bring this to my school. Without even analyzing and realizing and strategizing what kind of benefits it is going to bring in longer run. In next 5 years, whether this program is going to serve the purpose. In next 10 years, whether my child is going to upskill himself or herself by taking this particular program. What kind of exposures this program is bringing in for my child. All those questions needs to be answered. And is that particular program aligning with the vision of my school? Is that program interlinked with the other subjects or the scholastic and the non-scholastic activities that I do in the school? Unless and until I answer these questions, I should not be moving ahead with any particular program for that matter. So my learning should not have any acts of randomness in it. It should be very well thought of and very well planned and structured. So once we do this, then we are able to actually focus on the 6 C's of global competencies. Now, first C, earlier these were 4 C's, 2 C's got added in this. And these 2 C's which got added are number 1 and number 2, which is character, education, and citizenship. The other 4 were already in place in education 3.0. Now in education 4.0, we also include character education, because what happens is you have got creativity. You have been able to develop on the collaborative environment. I'm talking about the growth zone of the school and the transition phase. So in the growth zone, you are already delivering creativity, already delivering imagination. You have already created a collaborative environment. You have already created space for critical thinking and problem solving. You have an excellent communication channel system network developed. Now, with all these 4 as well, we are not able to generate the desired results that we wanted to in our students. We are not able to create global citizens. Now, why is that not happening? Is because of these 2 added global competencies. Number 1, character education. And along with this, the whole character in its holistic form has to be developed. So character education becomes important. Second is citizenship. So these days, another term has got another narrative has got added to this is digital citizenship. So digital citizenship becomes a part of global citizenship. Now, what do we mean by the citizenship? What kind of inclusions we want to bring in is something which we need to design upon. So there is a lot of research already available with which we can design good spaces in terms of creating global citizens from within the school environment. So what we need to do is to go through those documents and somehow link in terms of the environment that we have in our schools, the kind of audience that we have in our schools, customize it, and then start creating a roadmap for every quarter. The first 3 months, I want to achieve this. Track the progress. After 3 months, we will start with this. Track the progress, and so on. And then you will see that within a year, a massive amount of transformation has happened. So when we were talking about transition, when we are talking about quality learning, well-being, and safety and operations, these 6 global competencies need to be in place, in structure, and we need to look into that while I am planning my transition. Is my plan delivering to these global competencies or not? So let me just briefly take one by one these competencies. Yeah, because then I think it will give a more quicker insight as to what these competencies lead to and what kind of parameters we should look into. Number 1 is character. So in character, proactive stance towards life and learning to learn. Am I able to develop this within my teaching pedagogies? If yes, good to go ahead. If no, quickly start strategizing on it. Grit, tenacity, perseverance, and resilience. These 4 qualities, are they being developed in my learners? And when I say learners, I include my staff also in this. Yes, good to go ahead. If no, then some rubrics needs to be changed. Similarly, are my students empathetic, compassionate, and do they have integrity in their actions? How do I monitor it is number 1, which I need to set my standards and rules upon. What kind of activities do I want to judge them on? What kind of rubrics do I want to set so that my teachers or anyone who is in observance can give the criteria and scores? So I know that this child has got integrity in action, this child has not, or this child is still improving, and then I start guiding them accordingly. So once we cover these 3 items, I think we are developing the character amongst our students. Next comes the citizenship. One is a global perspective, because all the challenges that we spoke about in the very initial slides, the global challenges, unless and until our students become global citizens, unless and until we have a global perspective, it really becomes difficult to even think about those challenges. Forget about fighting them. So second is commitment to human equity and well-being. Third is human and environmental sustainability. These 3 important aspects will cover the requirements for my learners to be global citizens. Next comes is collaboration. Now in collaboration, I need to create these 4 stages within my school. Number 1, working interdependently as a team. Now, how many of my tasks inside the school are interdependent and they are team-based tasks, whether academic or non-academic, is something that I should look into. One of the very fine examples I saw in one school is they were installing some electrical fittings. I think it was related with lighting inside the classrooms. So it was not a contract given to an electrical company and they're doing it. Students, staff, and the vendor, all 3 were involved at all the stages. So how it helped is students were able to learn how it gets done. Number 1, students were able to do the financial budgeting planning also. So practical exposure was given to the students. At the same time, the staff was involved to supervise and monitor whether students are learning the right stuff and the way they are interacting with the vendor. So like it's just one minutest example I could have given. Like this, there are so many tasks, day-to-day things that happen inside the school. So whether my school has got tasks which are interdependent, and how many teams work is being done, what kind of work is done, will give you a glimpse of how well your collaborative environment is working. Similarly, interpersonal team related skills, managing team dynamics and challenges, and social, emotional, and intercultural skills. Along all of these are not just the broader terms. Along all of these, I need to have a strategy in place. I need to have a monitoring mechanism in place. And to do this, if you do not have a system, then as a school leader, definitely you are in need of a good technology platform which can support on this. Then comes this communication. So communication designed for audience and its impact. So let's say I'm sending a communication. It's a Cancer Awareness Day. And it's a social media post, or through the emails I have sent it to all my stakeholders. Now that's a communication which I've designed for my audience. But am I also analyzing its impact? Because unless and until I check the impact of my communication, the communication is meaningless. Now, most of the schools or the leaders, we have created channels for communication, right communication, formal communication, informal communication. But we fail to analyze the impact of that communication. Again, you need to have a system in place to be doing it. So next is reflection to further develop and improve communication. Message advocates the purpose and makes an impact. Every message that should go from the institution should create an impact. So for that matter, I just have to inform that tomorrow the bell timings will be at 8 o'clock instead of 7:45. Now, along with this, you have to rethink, you have to re-engineer, bring in creativity, that if I am to shoot this message, what can I add to this message, or how can I mold this message so that it creates an impact? That kind of strategizing is needed for having this effective communication channel in place. Voicing and identifying the express to advance humanity. Again, a very important aspect in the communication. Then comes creativity. So economic and social entrepreneurialism should be there. Pursuing and expressing novel ideas and solutions. Asking the right inquiry questions. And leadership to turn ideas to action. So a lot of times we will be talking about a lot of good ideas inside the school. However, out of those good ideas, a very few come into action. So leadership should get involved in terms of turning the ideas into action, and then observing the outcomes. Some of the outcomes may be fruitful, some of the outcomes may not result into what we planned, which is all right, because then the school creates a research-based environment wherein you have lots of successes, lots of fails, but then you continuously keep on growing. So that's how creativity will develop. Then comes critical thinking. Now, in critical thinking, we have been talking about critical thinking now over a decade. However, in terms of analyzing how well our stakeholders they think critically is very important. So evaluating information and arguments. Now, many a times, sir, I also take this example when I'm dealing with language teachers. Now, they conduct a debate competition. And from that debate competition, they will set a topic. Some students will say for the motion, some will speak against the motion. And once that ends, then some interjections happen, and then they give the scores, and that's how the debate ends as a competition. Now, what we want is that we should progress ahead from this. It's something which is done. Now, what is the evaluation of that argument which happened? That should come into a discussion inside my classroom. And then more ideas should evolve from there. So evaluation of all the information gathered, of all the arguments that happen, is what will bring the critical thinking in place. Otherwise, it's either a yes or a no. Either it's for or against. So that critical analysis becomes a challenge unless and until we follow this religiously. Similarly, meaningful knowledge construction. So internet is flooded with information. The whole world right now, the whole environment is flooded with information. Now, how do we create meaningful knowledge? Is what is primarily required for the critical thinking space to develop. Then comes making connections and identifying patterns. Highly important. Across the academics, non-academics, everywhere, identification of patterns is something which will enhance critical thinking like anything. One of the finest examples is Corona situation. Not many of us know that around 40% of the research scientists who worked for creating these vaccines to fight Corona were mathematicians, are mathematicians. Now people do ask, how come mathematicians and scientists who are developing on vaccines, how pharma is related with mathematics?
Very interesting point. I'm very inquisitive to learn that and to know that. Please.
Right, sir. So now what happens is any particular virus. So I also got a chance to study how mathematics is helping fighting the virus across the globe. And in fact, for that matter, I would take pride in saying that had mathematicians not be there, we would have been crippled by this situation totally. And I don't think you and I would be in a situation to talk if mathematics was not there to fight this situation. So what happens is any virus has a pattern. So in terms of its structure, you have a pattern. Now that particular pattern, when gets inside a body, then starts creating immunal deficiencies with which the other diseases will begin. So be it the DNA structure, the changes in the DNA structure, or wherever that virus is attacking. So a virus is a pattern of the chromosomes. Now, when that particular virus, a mathematician understands where that particular pattern can be broken. So the mathematics makes the scientists, the bioresearchers understand what's the pattern of a particular virus. On what patterns will it attack? What is the shape and dimensions of that particular virus? Now what these researchers do is they try to build in those chemicals which will break these patterns. So once it has entered into my body, and now when I am taking that particular vaccine or preventive vaccine, so now when that virus is trying to attack, that particular vaccine is going to break that pattern. And as soon as that pattern is broken, it gets controlled. It will not spread further. A small example here, but what happens is in the learning spaces, this critical thinking approach is required. Now, what happens is when we talk about symmetry in my classrooms, when I talk about congruency in my classrooms, I don't relate it to examples like these. Now, for a child, the triangles are there and they are like looking similar. What do I do with that? I mean, it's a useless information, to be very true. Right now, this particular pyramidal shape, which is there on the screen, on which I have used these four. Now, these are the bottom three are symmetrical. But what do I do with this? I mean, it just looks to me like a cake or maybe a pyramid. What else? Now, study of these patterns and relating this with the real life examples and solving the problems is utmost required. That is going to develop the critical thinking skills amongst the learners. The fourth thing that comes is experimenting, reflecting, and taking action on the ideas in the real world, which is like related with the third. So all the school leaders who are here, or the consultants who talk to schools or school leaders or teachers, we should be rethinking on what kind of critical thinking environment we are building in. Is it just a term, a broader term we are talking about, or actually we are able to solve the real life problems right at the school, the age when the child is in the school. And it actually begins from the kindergarten. So there are lots and lots of activities which kids at that age group can do. And we as leaders, our role is to monitor, supervise the progress. And for us to do that, again, I am repeating, we need to have a system in place. And that is how, as an organization, as Next Education, we have also focused a lot on our learning platform. So the next learning platform, the teaching platform that we have is, not just broadly, minutely, it covers all the aspects that I have covered today during this whole session. which becomes very important for any school for them to create a deep learning environment. So this is the whole designing process, the design process, wherein learning partnerships. So when we talk about deep learning partnerships. So you need to have good programs in place. You need to have good tools in place. You need to have good associations in place. You need to have good exposure channels in place. So those are all learning partnerships. Then you have learning environments. Like for example, in learning partnerships, the system that you have in the school, does it tell you, what all the parents community do? So if you have got 500 parents, all of them are somehow engaged in some or the other profession. What do they do? And if you have that particular data, how many of their sessions have you conducted inside the school? So at least your children should have got an exposure to 500 different category of professions, because that's your own community. They are your own people. So that is one form of creating the learning partnerships. Similarly, you associate with industries, you associate with communities to create these learning partners. You associate with good program providers, and then you create a rock solid foundation of your learning partnerships. Creating learning environments. All the 6 global competencies which we were talking about fall into creating a good learning environment. Leveraging digital. So digital is not just about the digital content. It's not just limited to the digital classrooms inside the school or let's say a learning platform, but what kind of benefits am I driving through the digital? What am I leveraging upon? What kind of tracking I am able to maintain? How well am I able to monitor the progress is what should be answered here. And fourth is pedagogical practices. So engaging pedagogies is what I mentioned in the previous slides also, is something that is the need of the hour. Because we have, and all the institutions and organizations have been working on creating the best of the best pedagogies. The new education policy in India is one of the finest documents on education till date. Now, to implement that in the most engaging way is our role. Because that nobody can help us. We have to help ourselves and start building upon. So once these 4 things are in place, these 4 components we are able to work upon, then we can talk about that we have taken the first step towards creating the deep learning environment in the school. On that note, I would like to end the presentation today, sir. I hope some meaningful information I was able to deliver in this 1.5 hour of time.
In fact, each and every slide, each and every word, each and every content, what you have mentioned, and finally, when you have given the apex of entire thing, where you're told that the new education policy 2020 is one of the finest document which has been produced or which has been assembled after 34 years in India. Now, RPG, first of all, my deep gratitude and thanks. You have tried to give as much inputs and as much information, as much details, whatsoever you could give it over here. Now I've got, before we sum up today's session, because I'm a hungry child at this age, I always want to learn more and more, because that is the way I think. And at the backdrop I have given today matters, because Mr. Arpit Duggar is with me, because the next education is with me. His efforts are there. His dedication is there. Early in the morning, you're joining from Dubai. You're almost, couple of hours behind the other timings. So I'm going to say, I must appreciate your deep concern to your organization and your in-person efforts to empower the entire education ecosystem. Finally, I wish to get some food from you. I'm still hungry. I need one more paratha before I close down. It is in person. It is personal, which I wish to share with you. And then you got to give me the solution. Maybe, maybe I get my appetite, with your sumptuous reply, contented. Okay, let me just go on. Few days back, we had one of the very brainstorming session with Australia. And the people, those that come from there, finally, they told us the education ecosystem was initially teaching centric. And slowly and gradually, you have given such a beautiful, the complete chronology, and you have given the flow, how we have come from 1.0 to 2.0, 2.0 to 3.0, and 3.0 to 4.0. And you have also mentioned some of us, we are still struggling in 2.0, and some of us are struggling in 3.0. Okay. Now, he told and he mentioned, and that haunts my mind all the time. And you know, as a teacher, because I'm also teaching 2 months abroad every year, to basically learn more, to pick up more, to get the new threads, to get the new weaving, to get the new wave. Now, what comes over here, what I wish to know from you is, education was teaching centric. Then thereafter we say, and when we are talking even about the NEP 2020, NEP 2020 came on 29th of July 2020. The lockdown was declared on 25th of March 2020. Nobody anticipated. I'm owning it right before the global audience. At least we didn't know that the pandemic is going to drag so much, and it's going to bring such a long challenges, and 1.65 billion children being away from schools, colleges, institutions, and all the places. So we had moved from teaching centric to learning centric, and that is NEP 2020, good, intact on 29th of July 2020, if everything was becoming normal. And thereafter came second wave. We lost lots of human being on this planet, and we do not know how the things are proceeding. So one thing, I'm totally convinced that it is the digital and technology optimum utilization is the only way and only solution. And I think all the principal, all the teachers, all the youth, everybody whosoever is watching this program, put your hand on your heart. I am putting it over here because I'm seeing it, what the world was on 25th of March 2020, when we all were struggling and we were saying, child, tell me what is Zoom and how to go by, how to log in, how to put it PPT, which way it is going. Arpit Dugaji, I'm trying to get you, but my Zoom is not working. My internet problem is there. And we have come a long way. And today, if you take the analysis, children are very comfortable. They enjoy digital way. And I personally feel people, those are telling that education cannot be taken digital way, they are basically because they don't want to make education transparent. Now education is accountable. The parents are also sitting next to the desktop, and they are also the learners over there, and they're watching, and they pass on the comments also. This teacher, very nice class. This teacher, oh, I think the teacher has not prepared. Anyway, tomorrow, let's see how it's going to be. So the Australians, in that deliberation, what I'm sharing with you, give me the solution on that. He told education was teaching centric. We moved on to learning centric. And today, if you take, you gave the 90-10 ratio, and they told us it is a co-learning. It's a co-learning because some of the children, most of the children are more comfortable with the technology, and they are gadget children, the millennials and all these younger generation which is coming through. They're very comfortable with the gadgets. They're very comfortable with the technology. The challenge is basically for my teachers. So my humble request to you is, Guruji, early in the morning, tell me which could be the 5 best solutions that we can avoid embarrassment, we can avoid difficulties, we can avoid problems, because child doesn't need knowledge. I'm from the tourism background. I don't need any subject knowledge. My life will go, I will go to the graveyard, but I will not be able to go through all that what has been put universally by the different people world over. So what do you feel? How basically educators should prepare themselves? 5 भूतों से 5 उंगलियां 5 तत्वों, मुझे 5 सोल्यूशन बता दो कि भाई टीचर्स जो है ना, चैलेंज तो टीचर्स के लिए है. आई एम वेरी क्लियर अबाउट इट. प्लीज टेल मी.
I have some input, sir. Maybe not 5, but I'll add something upon it.
तुम 7 दे दो यार, 2 और दे दो, 7 दे दो.
One is, sir, yes, from teaching centric, it moved to learner centric. And now I would say, rather than teaching and learner centric, it is information centric.
Okay.
So, जो schools हैं, they should first realize that now teachers and students, ये teacher student वाला concept हटा के, there is something called as, I mean, there's a lot of information. So information and research centric the environment should become.
Okay, so उसका कोई नया coining कर लेते हैं word.
हाँ, I think, sir, हम लोग ही इसको दे सकते हैं कि now the teaching space has moved from teacher centric to learner centric, now to information centric.
Okay, okay. And research is very important, which you have made a mention.
Absolutely, sir. I think the education space without research will go meaningless, if not now, very soon. So that has to be there. The way technology, sir, we have been talking a lot about technology. I was reading one fact. In USA last year, close to 56,000 heart attacks were, I mean, people who face these heart attacks, they were able to save it because they were wearing a gadget.
Okay.
I categorically mention it because I literally admired that piece of information. So they were wearing Apple Watches.
Mm-hmm.
Before the heart attack, that gadget actually detects that you are going to face a trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So it automatically triggers a message to the nearest police station as well as the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, you are an elderly person moving around in, your own space and where you feel a particular problem. Now, before you make a call and tell somebody that you're not feeling comfortable about it, and many a times you won't not even realize that you're not feeling comfortable. The gadget is telling you that and is passing on the information. And by the time you realize, you are already there with the support.
Wow. Wow.
So 56,000 lives were saved just by a usage of a particular technology. So what I mean to say here is our teachers need to do a lot of research in terms of seeing what exactly is happening across the globe. Just by telling students, cutting trees is not good, or deforestation is not good, won't serve the purpose. Because tomorrow when I'm going to construct my house, I'll cut the trees. What I should be talking to them now about is artificial grafting, that the whole tree can be grafted and can be placed somewhere else. So
wow,
no more tree cutting is required.
Great.
Now, how do my teachers, so answering to your question, sir, the challenge lies in terms of creating that research orientation inside the school, for which my teachers require a rigorous training. Undoubtedly. My teachers have to be, number two, my teachers have to be gadget friendly. Lot many times we struggle with gadgets. Right now, my teacher is using an Android phone, and tomorrow I say, oh, today, your Android is not working. I'm giving you an iOS platform. You quickly start the class. Our students are waiting. Or you quickly start this. I think we'll face a heart attack there. So what happens is we are not skilled enough with the gadgets. Third is the hygiene of IT. We are very less trained and accustomed to the hygiene of information technology systems. In the sense, just taking a small example. Let's say I'm logged in from my personal account, and then I'm inside the school and I have to start from my official account. Now, for me to shift from my personal to an official account across my devices comes in a part of system hygiene. I don't know it. Many times I don't log out from the account which I've already logged in. I just directly turn it off. Many times I would struggle with cookies which are being saved. So these are small little terms, but are being utilized on day-to-day basis by us. Needs to be thought of. So our hygiene needs to improve. Next, and then it has to be bypassed to the students as well. So majorly, broadly with the teaching fraternity, and then to the learning fraternity. Then debugging. A lot of debugging techniques are required now, especially with the tech. Smallest of the smallest examples. A robot is not functioning in the school. Maybe I have assembled something and I don't know. I don't know how to debug it. A monitor in the classroom is not opening, or it's not properly calibrated. I do not have debugging techniques. I'm trying to start my Zoom session, but it is showing me some error. And when an error comes, the only thing that I do is call the IT person or call the principal that whosoever has given the software is a useless one. I'm not able to start my class. I mean, we need to get over with this. We would never do this. Let's say I'm using a phone and my phone is not, let's say it's not switching on. What do? I'll not call Samsung for this. That Samsung, your phone is not switching on or something like that. What do? I will do some debugging. I will try to turn it completely off. If my phone is hanged, I will try to charge the battery. I will try to remove the battery, put it again. I'll try to do 3-4 things and then it will start.
So some permutation combination has to be tried.
Exactly. So in terms of technology usage, that debugging techniques have to be there, because now with tech, we can't move forward. Number fifth, and one of the most important aspects here, is creating that proactiveness amongst the teachers. If my teachers are not proactive, I will not be able to drive any one of these items, because now teaching space has changed. We need those passionate, inquisitive, proactive, aggressive teachers who are hungry for research and who are hungry to deliver information, because then they will be able to align with whatever is required and will be able to give directions to our students. I feel that these are 5 prime, challenges, or rather than solutions, which should be delivered to the teachers in its proper and apt way. And then I think we'll be able to see those magic happening inside the classrooms.
Wonderful, wonderful. Such a engaging, such a innovative, such a creative, such a vibrant and such a dynamic session. I enjoyed each and every word like a small child, and I felt, God, why I'm not born now instead of being born 72 years back. I wish I would have come now, and I would have utilized all the gadgets, all the facilities and everything whatsoever Mr. Arpit Dugar's organization, and he as a head of the international, the projects and the programs of the next education is giving, are all the blessings to you all the way, and to Avantika madam also. And it's a great to have you. It's always a new learning. It's always a new innovation whenever you come. I think as a departing soul from this planet in few years, I can always request you that once in a month we must have such an engaging brainstorming session, because there is a lot which I accumulate from the world over. We are dealing with 131 countries. Our chamber is having a presence in 131 countries. And all my research scholars, my people, those are world over. Why not once in a month, 1 hour program, brainstorming? Your name itself is Next Education. Why don't we organize once in a month, 1 hour? And what we should do, we can fix it up so that people, they register with it, that on such and such day, at such and such time, Next Education, Arpit Dugar and Dr. Sharma will be in the boxing ring, box, and we will bring the global information for the benefit of the entire humanity. May God bless you. May always you stay blessed, and may you shine, rise, grow, prosper, develop every day. And God should always keep me a humble student like I was today. I've taken each and every note, and I was reading the comments, and the victorious of today, I do not know who the person is. I can't recall. Melinda D'Souza. Melinda D'Souza has posted maximum comments. Whosoever you are, madam, wherever you are, madam, just put it in the chat box. Where are you? What is your designation? Because the kind of a post you have put on the YouTube today, we are proud of all of you. And all other dignitaries, those joined us this morning, and all my young boys and girls, teachers, educators, principals, those have come over here. Please share today's video with your friends, with others as well. Let humanity know, because You can't imagine how many years, how much efforts, how many hours Mr. Arpit Duggar must have worked to bring this entire permutation and combination together. Stay blessed.
Yeah.
Stay blessed. Always shine. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. You are my Abhishek Bachchan in Dubai. I always call you that way. And you are such a wonderful